and I don't like heights in particular. So it's interesting because there's different apparatuses, and the rope and fabric are, vertical, so they connect to the ground. When I'm on something that's completely floating, like I have to do a gig soon on the lyra, which is the hoop that spins, I'll rig those really low. I don't like being up very high.
When I was 10 years old, I used to climb over monkey bars without using my hands. In fact, actually, when I was 10 years old, I broke one of my legs from doing something crazy like that.
So if you had to give it your best shot as a 10-year-old, what would you think you'd be doing right now?
Probably still doing crazy stuff.
Allison, what do you think of aerialists?
After attending the Circus Guild performance and seeing some of these performers, I was just amazed and inspired by the way they were in touch with their bodies, and that so much emotion could be conveyed non-verbally. And they looked so in the moment. And I was most impressed with some of the storylines that they had associated with their performances, or the way they created these performances, and what we heard about them, and how, with a metal circle, learning how to yield. And that's such a huge metaphor for life.
Passion. It's best to discover what it is, I suppose. If you have one and you don't realize it, it probably just gets in the way of everything you do. But then again, you shouldn't pay any attention to what I say.
But it's passion.
And is that where your motivation comes from, would you say?
Definitely.
The best part is between all the rehearsals put together is really a cool experience, and also being backstage with all the other people and preparing, and you're kind of all in it together, and that's really interesting, and you all have the same passion.
Do you feel that there is a malaise in the world right now?
Yeah. People are very complacent.
I would want people to regain a sense of possibility and a sense of hope. And I think people have lost that. We are so enmeshed in the daily news and of all the bad news and of everything that's going wrong. So I remember Utah Phillips used to say, maybe we're winning and we don't even know it.
What do you think the arts have to offer as an alternative to that malaise?
An easy way to find passion. I mean, it's not everybody's passion, but for a lot of people, there's a reason that there's drawings on caves. People are drawn to create in some way.
How does it make you feel when you do a perfect routine? Like, as good as you feel you can do it, how do you feel when you're performing that?
I don't think I've ever felt that.
Oh, to young people, hurry out and make music. Every opportunity, pick up an instrument, any instrument, and or experiment with instruments, and and stick with it until it's not a chore, until it's a pleasure. And the better they get, the more fun it is.
I was a follower of Judy Collins and Joan Baez. But what I loved about Joan Baez was mostly, it wasn't so much about her music, it was about her politics. It was about how she used her music. And then I fell in love with Malvina Reynolds, who became a big influence on me. The way that she was using song as an older woman, too, and making such a difference and such an impact on young people.
We used to, when I was in college at Fairhaven, we used to get together, a bunch of us, on Friday nights. We called it Friday Night Hoedown, because none of us actually liked to go out to parties and stuff, so we kind of just created our own thing, called it Friday Night Hoedown, and we just got together and played music. Don't you guess, better be making your wedding dress.
I ever heard, but I heard that first Doc Watson album with that, you know, basically like. You know.
Kind of more pop songs that I like, and see if I can adapt them to the banjo. I call it the banjo cover project. And for me, it's just a really cool way to just push myself on the instrument, so you know, to just see what I can do with it. Hey, sweet baby, is your daddy home? Did he go and leave you all alone? Got a bad desire. Oh, I'm on fire. Tell me now, baby, is he good to you? Can he do to you things that I can do? Oh, I can take you higher. Oh, I'm on fire.
That art is almost like food to the people that I've interviewed. They can't imagine life without it.
I need art. I need to be able to express myself.
Could you say you're addicted to art?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What's your message to young people?
Oh, don't let them tell you you're not doing it right. You are you, and you are the only you there is. I'm just gonna do a couple of little things on here because I think they kind of need to be done.
What's harder, editing artwork or writing?
Oh, writing, absolutely, absolutely.
Allison, how do your socks relate to your life?
As I said, just earlier, no organization whatsoever. Nothing seems to matter.
What I think is that you have to have a full cup before you can fill others. So you have to figure out what makes you happy.
Do you think people get that tap on the shoulder about their calling and don't notice it?
Oh, I'm sure that happens. I'm sure it's happened to me. It's a lot.
primary calling is as a musician. So just all these other things, community builder, all these things weave in with it. But it's all been moved by that creative spirit that expresses itself in song.
Has to offer. You're defying gravity. Everybody has flying dreams.
I would say that in high school, even though you don't know exactly what you're going to do, hopefully you're finding some spark of something that inspires you or moves you or is fun for you, that even though it might take 20 more steps in your life before you're going to land on what you do with yourself, what you do for a career, for a passion, or what have you, that maybe you in a way have already found it. In high school, I had already found it. I went some other directions for a while and then sort of came back to a version of I like collaborating with people to make filmed entertainment, and that's something that I love to do and something I love to do then. Sometimes you just have to go a circuitous route to end up where you end up.
I mean, you have to be driven to stay with it for that long, and if you reach a certain age, you have to be really dedicated. I would really like to be the bluebird in Sleeping Beauty. I feel like that would be really fun. Odette in Swan Lake, and Keytree in Don Quixote, which are both principal roles, which of course every girl would want to do those.
What makes you interested in kind of multi-generational perspectives?
I think we're always young and old at the same time. In other words, every time I feel stuck in something that I'm doing and I see an innovative path out of it, I'm suddenly your age. I made a film that includes people of a lot of different ages. What I'm trying to do is show that it's almost like this film is about one person at different points of his or her life. We all go through phases, we all go through doubts, we all go through changes, and I want to explore how that looks to people at different ages.
When someone tells you to grow up, what they're really telling you to do is to grow old.
What does this movie, this project, mean to you?
Well, you had said to me near the beginning of this project that maybe this movie is about you, meaning me. And I think maybe you're right. Where is it you're from in Montana?
I am from a really small town called Phillipsburg, which is southeast of Missoula, about 80 miles southeast of Missoula. So we lived a little bit out of town, so I was even small town and then even more small town in that, you know, I grew up out, not on a farm, but my parents raised horses. Looking back at it, what I realized is being in such a rural environment really gave me this sense of belonging in terms of the wildlife and nature. I feel a really strong connection with mountains and getting outside and outdoors. I love to go backpacking and hiking and doing those kind of things.
Italian band. We used to play for Italian weddings and parties in high school, and also in Chinatown in a cabaret. And you're never too old. Grandma Moses started painting at 80.
What would 10-year-old Jen have said if she could see current Jen performing?
She'd be like, yeah, I could do that.
Any teachers in the past that you feel were great influences on you?
Oh yeah. Mr. Gare, my art teacher in high school, was great. And Janice Lapsansky, who is an anatomy teacher at Western, was great. And both of what they did best was really take the time to explain.
So 10-year-old Jerome wanted to be a writer, so he would not be surprised. I don't think 10-year-old Jerome maybe could have pictured living in Los Angeles, but I think 10-year-old Jerome would have understood and appreciated that adult Jerome wrote for a living. My 3rd and 4th grade elementary school, this teacher Scott, who just let you do your own thing and just write. Terry Grimes, high school teacher, drama teacher at Seaholm High School, also fantastic. And again, I think it was the long leash theory of give you room to learn from your teacher, but then also create your own things. I think that's always the most valuable type of teacher.
I loved drawing. I loved writing. Those were definitely 2 of my biggest outlets when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. I also enjoyed dancing. I did dance for a really long time. I went to school for dance. And I just absolutely adored that sort of teaching style of being very like pushy and a little like rough, because it really pushed me to get to what I wanted to get and to get things done, rather than having someone be very passive towards me.
I do like being pushed in a way that will make me improve.
You're an aerialist. Could you talk a little bit about how you became interested in that?
Mr. Gare, he was my art teacher. He was feeling kind of low energy one day, and he just popped in some videos of Cirque du Soleil that one of my classmates had brought in, and I just watched it on the TV.
But you never had any inkling that you'd move in that direction until you saw that video.
Not even then. I mean, when I saw the videos, I just knew I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't move in that direction at all. I was, very, very academic, very into my schooling. I wanted to be a PT, then I did my internship and decided I did not want to be a PT and did not want to deal with insurance all the time, and how uncreative it felt to me when I did that.
There's a rocket going to the International Space Station tomorrow, and you're offered a ride. Would you take it?
Absolutely. I love space.
I can only be myself when I'm being artistic.
I am quite excited about art. It's one of those things you really never get tired of.
I grew up in one place pretty much ever since I was 2 in Moscow, Idaho, with a pretty close family. I have a pretty centered feeling when I think about, my past. There were so many jam sessions at our house because my parents are both musicians, and so there's a lot of extended family feeling. Being more introverted myself, some of the energy, I don't know, led me to think that some of the ways I relate best to people were not, didn't fit.
I'm definitely an introvert in the sense that, I need to be away from people to recharge the batteries.
I also am still learning to love music in my own way, I think. I think it's so ingrained in me that it's super, it's at my core. Especially because it's on my ankle, it's helping me connect to my roots or something. And now I think this is supposed to be tar weed, which is something that always reminds me of home.
Who would you like to be when you grow up?
I'd like to be the conductor of a symphony orchestra. It might be a young people's orchestra, and then it would turn into a mature orchestra. And they would have a lot of enthusiasm.
I think the 5th grade me that decided not to learn guitar is kind of mad.
whether it's a line in it or whether I'm thinking visually about something, it always has to do with something involving nature or something that I would probably call pretty rural environments. When I'm writing, you know, I have to have something in my hand, whether it's a banjo or guitar or piano. It's the music, it's the melody where I draw from that emotion. Trying so hard to see the light, there's a fear of what you'll find inside. Secrets dark in your heart, just look down, you're walking blind. You run, 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 never forget the goal, forget to know what it's all about. We run, 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 forget all the expectations, troubles, all the hesitation. So I started with piano lessons at around 5 years old. And I continued taking those lessons till I graduated from high school. But in terms of playing music, I had a very different experience growing up. It was just my family was not really, you know, I wouldn't say they're not a musical family, but we didn't do music in my family. But my grandpa is very, very musical. He is the one who got me going with piano lessons, got the piano. And he's very, very musical. And then his grandmother, my great-grandmother, was actually a professional pianist. She went to Juilliard, and that's what she did. But I loved to play the piano, and I did classical lessons, which were great, and I'm really grateful for now. But they were also kind of traumatic. The recitals were terrifying, and I got really, really nervous and had a couple of traumatic experiences at those. So the train going by makes me want to stop and cry. Music, it wasn't until I got to college that I really started looking at music at a different way. Growing up, I was always listening to music. I mean, I had to listen to music to go to sleep. It was always on. So my junior year of high school, I was an exchange student to Belgium, and my host family had a guitar. And it was missing 2 strings, so it only had 4 strings on it. But a lot of just my kind of downtime in my room, I spent trying to figure this thing out to a lot of Stevie Nicks songs. Senior year of high school, I started taking some guitar lessons, but I had to drive to Missoula to take them, which was 80 miles away. Moonrise bright tonight, sitting high, it holds back the tide. So lay me down, waves crash round, stars above, be my guide. Reaching deep inside the soul, winning out the picture, show the sky. Trying to find a destination, searching for a revelation, a sign. We run, 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 run. Don't forget the dark, then I know what it's all about. We run, 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 run. Forget about the expectations, troubles, all the hesitation. We run, 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 run. We run, 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 run.
In 3rd grade, Scott Stodel's class at the Bellingham Cooperative School, where we had a free write. I remember I hit 100 pages, and I was very proud of that. That was the most important thing to me, was the length, was that I got 100 pages written of one thing. And I remember thinking, maybe I could be a writer, would want to be a writer. And I think I had 20 other things I wanted to be after that, but at the time, in that moment, for 3rd, 4th grade, I think writer was top on the list, if not astronaut. At a younger age, I had made a lot of people punching each other movies and shooting each other with cap guns movies. In high school, I made the first serious attempt at making a real movie.
We need to talk. Good thing I had my brake service, darling. I do hate getting blood on the car.
There's still time for that.
haunting tuning. I think that's what draws a lot of people to old-time banjos, that modal tuning. So it's like mysterious without being sad. But I must admit, when I first started playing banjo when I was 25, among the first 3 or 4 songs I learned were all murder ballads, and I remember thinking, I need to get some counseling or something like that. And finally, somebody said, I think it's the tuning.
They did this duo performance on 2 separate silks, and it almost looked like they were gliding in between both of the silks, kind of as though they were flying from one to the other. And I just thought it was the most beautiful thing that I had ever seen.
The music came first before the choreography.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it did.
And is that a typical continuum for you, that you might hear some music that gives you an idea for a choreography?
Yeah, most of the time, but a lot of the times it's from music, and I think it comes from my dance background too. Sometimes you just hear something and you think of a story.
If you had no creative outlet, what would life feel like?
Very dull.
You think you could do it?
No, probably not. If you don't feel happy doing what you're doing, then what makes you happy, and why aren't you doing those things that make you happy?
So many of us get busy with making a living or our day-to-day lives and lose the art. And art is really what feeds us. And when I say art, what I really mean is the creative side of ourselves. Some of us are lucky enough to have lives where we can be creative in our day-to-day lives, in our jobs, and other people aren't so fortunate. But there's nothing that stops anyone from exploring their artistic side, and really that's where life comes from.
Most of us don't get a chance in our daily lives. We don't take the chance to create. And we just get all worn out and overwhelmed with the world. I just get lost in time when I create. And that opportunity to create, it seems like I think we all have that drive. And if we would just do it, it would lift us. And so it makes me think that everybody should find what it is they really like to do and create, because I think it's a part of life. It should be.
I don't think there's a huge percentage of people that are doing necessarily what they love. That's why it's important to at least have some sort of, outlet, hobby, or something that you enjoy doing, for sure.
Pop music, which was folk music, had become pop music during that era. And I heard expressed so much of how I felt about the world. I mean, I may think of a story and think I know where it's going to go, and then I get in the middle of it and suddenly it's off in, a whole different direction, and then I go with that, so it may turn out very differently.
We're standing at my pond, which we dug when we first built our house. All we had was an empty field with one tree in it, and for a lot of years this garden became my art form. I had no idea where it was going. I had no idea what it was going to look like in a year. All I knew was what I wanted to do that particular day with whatever plants I got at a plant sale or from wherever else they came from. No one does exactly what they think they're doing artistically. It always goes left or right or backwards or upside down in any project. And there's a certain freedom with that where you have to just let go to the creative process, find some inner side of yourself that perhaps you didn't even know existed, and surrender to it. Well, when you take on an art project, how much of it is the end product exactly what you think to begin with, or is the end product sometimes totally different or somewhere in the middle?
It's always different. It's always different. It's an evolving process.
I started wanting to write a song about Sarajevo during that era when the bombing was happening, and the cellist who played on the corner, and I thought it would be about the cellist, and it turned out to be about a woman who was standing in line and was killed buying bread for her family. And so that was actually the voice that came out. So
it was only for bread that I died, not as a soldier defending our land, not as a doctor with blood on our hands, but just as a woman whose children were hungry at home.
And that, but there were 22 people who were killed in line at the bakery when Serbian mortars began falling on them. And Vedran Smailovic, who was a cellist with the Sarajevo Symphony, was across the square, and in fact one of the people who died in his arms. So his way of honoring these people, the 22 people who had died, was to go out to the square with his cello for the next 22 days, and at 4 o'clock each day would play Albinini's Adagio. And people would say, you're crazy. The mortars are still falling. What are you doing? And he'd say, well, go talk to those who are sending the bombs. They're the crazy ones. So I wanted to write a song honoring Vedran Smailovic. But when I went to write the song, the voice that came out was not Smailovic's voice.
It was only for bread that I died. It was only for God that I died, not for the God of the Croats or Serbs, not Christian, not Muslim, not life's sacred word, but the God of destruction and chaos and vengeance and greed.
What is your message to young people?
Practice forgiveness, practice presence. Pay attention to what's going on around you. Do not go to sleep. Keep your eyes open. Become active. Be part of the solution. Just let love and forgiveness lead the way, and pay attention.
It was only for love that I died. Love for my children whose eyes are too old. Love for my husband whose supper grows cold, whose rough hands must now tend these children and soon hold a gun. It was only for love that I died.
I couldn't be doing the work I do if I didn't believe in the power of hope, if I didn't believe that that is what will pull us through.
I love them. My dad found them at a secondhand store, and I think he knew, and I knew it right when I put them on, that they were just the shoes for me. And I feel silly in them, and they kind of make me feel childish, but I feel more myself than ever in these shoes for some reason. So there.
As I said, Nathaniel, our son, is just beginning. He's just on fire. He was the one non-musician in the family. He was the one who was absolutely not going to pick up a guitar or open his mouth and sing. And it's been really fun to see him just catch on fire as he has the last year or two.
Well, here's the thing that I love. Hearing young people sing, choirs or orchestras or band ensemble. It's such a communal thing, you know, to make music with other people and to share it with a community.
About the Nutcracker, and I was asking you, what is it that attracted you to it?
Well, if you want me to be completely honest, I just wanted to be a pink mouse, and that's all I wanted.
So fast forwarding, did you ever get to play that role?
Yes, I did. When I was 4 or 5. I've done it for 8 years now, 8 times, so there was a lot of different parts. You just kind of go up and level a little bit. That was kind of fun, you know, you kind of hope for certain parts and you kind of get goals about what parts you want to be and stuff like that, so that's fun. I did the role of Clara last year, and that was a pretty big accomplishment, and my whole family was in it that year.
So if there was no pink mouse, it could be your whole direction towards dance may have not happened.
Yeah, no Nutcracker in general would have been totally, I would not have been sort of drawn to it.
In those weak and drunken hearts, guess he kissed the girls and made them cry. Those hard-faced queens of misadventure. God knows what is hiding in those weak and sunken lines. Fiery thrones of muted angels, giving love again to nothing back. Oh, people have the peace.
A place like BRD, I feel like that's really cool because they're all local people and they all just come together and dance, and it's more for fun.
Having music as like this core thing in my life, noticing how it like just sucks people together and puts everyone like on a common wavelength.
Music is universal. All cultures appreciate music and participate in music in some way. And so it's an activity where you work together, you're not working against other people. To play together, to make music together, to sing together, it has to be a communal effort.
It's a sense of community. You play with them, you work with them, you try to improve, you try to listen to other parts and try to play with the rest of the band. Susan is in the Bellingham Community Chorus, and Susan says she's not a good singer, and maybe she's not, but collectively the group as a whole is terrific. The chorus is just wonderful. And I think it's like Jack was saying, it's a sense of community, it's a universal language.
encourage the kids to also play in a small group, play with duets with somebody else, or play in a string quartet or a saxophone trio or clarinet trio or whatever. That there's a lot of joy in making music together with other people.
Between all the girls at the studio, and we all dance and take class and rehearse together and go backstage together and perform together, all this stuff develops quite a camaraderie, and that is a really valuable part of dancing for me.
I had a friend who had a banjo and got a couple of lessons from Laura Smith.
Oh.
She was my first banjo teacher.
How's it felt seeing the progression of her career, Cody's?
It's been really pretty phenomenal. Not only her banjo playing, but just everything, because she's really round. I mean, she plays guitar really well, she sings really well, she writes really well. She works with other people really well in terms of been able to sing with her a couple times and, you know, like worked out harmonies and stuff like that. And it's just easy to do with her.
Cause you know that I can dance just like you. Yes, I'm a step two, my darling, I'm a step two. I like to know, but I can, and I'm a step two. Yes, I'm a step two, my darling, I'm a step two. I like to know, but I can, and I'm a step two.
Have a collaborative, creative process with friends. It was just a group of, 4 of my best friends that were all making this movie together. We had a great time. Eventually at some point you come to realize in the real world it doesn't usually, for most people, feel like just sitting down with your best friends to have a great time all the time. But at that moment, that sort of felt like that's what the ideal of making movies was.
Is there a connector between your high school group and the professional group as far as putting together a script?
There's really very little relationship between the fun, adventurous collaboration and the more professional, here's how you need to do it on a super strict timeline collaboration, except that hopefully you remember to bring a little bit of the joy that you had once upon a time into the professional sphere. But it's not like just sitting around late at night noodling with your friends. So you take the spark of why you want to do it in the first place and then learn how to do it in a 9-to-5 sense.
Music affects people, and music brings up emotions for people, and music connects people.
Music offers communication without language, without the barrier.
My deepest friendships were met through some kind of musical means, and it's because for me that's the way that I really connect with people on a really deep level.
I think you can form relationships with people without being from the same culture.
So I think using music as a tool to connect people and develop conversation and dialogue is really important.
I see a connecting thread between aerialists and musicians in general.
And what would that be?
The same dedication and passion. They get just as lost in it as we do.
Do you ever see a connection between flying in the air and swimming in the water?
Oh yeah, definitely. Except the only problem is with flying in the air is there's this wonderful thing called gravity, and you really have to hold on to make sure you actually don't fall. So it's more of a mimicking swimming, I guess you could say, but fighting gravity at the same time in order to make it look effortless. But dance, I'm a lot more free, so I can just kind of do whatever I want in dance movement. Aerial, as much as I feel like I can relay a story in it, Ariel always just makes me feel like I have superpowers.
I wanted to make a movie about everyone. And as I started doing that, I found out it's about me. And when I did that, I found out it's really about everyone. Piano days, small row house as the stereo plays. Her voice sets free who she cannot be. She cooks all day, heart is on that plate. It's her escape, world so full of hate. As I hitch away, it somehow sets her free. Mom and Dad saw gray, which was not for me. When the world said play, I hit the road to flee. Dad goes down the stairs, basement office hears, problems people bring. Never wanted much, but his path would touch the West Coast on my wings. And her name is May, never thought like me. Bill watched sports by day, flew west at kid's plea. Dad did what his wife said, like she lived inside his head. Couldn't face his life alone. Bravely faced this world anew, this foreign land at 82. Best part of me is just his clone.
When the world said play, I hit the road to flee. Dad goes down the stairs, basement office hears, problems people bring. Never wanted much, but his path would touch the West Coast on my wings. Mom and Dad saw gray, which was not for me. When the world said play, I was quick to flee. And her name is May, never thought like me. Bill watched sports by day, flew west at kids' plea. At kids' plea.
I think I realized that I couldn't do it for anyone but myself anymore, and that the more I tried to like ask people what they want of me, like the more confusing it got, and like no one had an answer, and it was really like unsatisfying. I was told like that over and over again, like I don't need to have the answers, or like I don't need to problem solve, but like actually feeling that difference has taken a really long time. A really awesome professor, Mary Cornish, helped me, and this is at one of those times where it made sense cognitively, but it's taken a while. Like, you know, instead of seeing life as like this knot to like untangle, or like a puzzle to solve, like can't we just look at the knot and like describe it and yeah, notice it? And
why don't you talk a little bit about trust?
You have to know that your product is going to be good at the end, and you have to know when to stop.
I used to teach, and I wanted to pursue my music, and so I went to school for that.
And how old were you when you made
I
that
was
switch?
52 when I went back, and by the time I was done with the program, which I loved, I was really tired and was wondering about a lot of the stress of that kind of work and scoring. But I'd sort of lost my spark because I was tired. And this was this sort of golden opportunity that just sort of came out of the air to be able to be creative with a nice melody. And it was wonderful for you to say, you know, do what you'd like to do with it. And as I sat down day after day and played at my piano and heard the chords, it just brought it all back to me, this, you know, the fear of am I gonna be able to produce something today? And then it just sort of, it's just sort of like this thing that floats down and you get this idea and you start writing and you say, that sounds good together, and you just get it down on paper as fast as you can. So it was just very uplifting.
You never stop learning. And you'll never be exactly where you want to be. It's never going to be comfortable. It's never going to be this place of, I've arrived and I am good at this thing. And so I've learned that I need to really work with my strengths. There's a shelf life of corporate. You know, I don't have much more work left in the corporate world. I'm getting toward the upper years as far as what's attractive. There's a really, you know, superficial aesthetic to it all. They want pretty people in the air. But I do know aerialists that are upwards of 50, and they're doing mostly teaching at this point. So.
It's very hard to get selected for a job. There aren't a lot of jobs for professional dance, and I don't know what's gonna happen in that aspect. Most dancers that do take on a really professional, rigorous career move out when they're really young and go to big cities like that, and I'm not sure if that's something I want to commit to. I don't know if I want to study dance or study something else in college.
People don't go out. And they don't want to pay for any kind of performance art. Dancers struggle to make ends meet, same with circus artists. Anything that's a performance art, actors. Dime a dozen and nobody will pay to see live performance. They want.
We'll put money into English and math and so on, but not into art and not into music, and I think that's really a pity.
The high school me would have thought that anyone who wrote in television was selling out his art, and that instead I should be making my own feature films.
So I think when people think Nashville, you know, we have this idea of, you know, commercialized pop country world, but there's so much other music happening, and so the world I was in was very much the, you know, alternative to that, bluegrass music and Americana folk kind of stuff. I don't know how people just write really happy, silly songs. Like for me, I can sing those, but in terms of writing, I'm not that great of a songwriter to actually try to write something like that. For me, it has to be some kind of real intense feeling about something.
You had my heart. It's just the start. Looks like winter's here to stay. I fall apart. You had my heart. Looks like winter's here to stay.
Absolutely. If you have determination to do whatever it is you want and you're willing to push for it, you can do whatever you want.
I mean, you have to be driven, basically, to stay with it for that long. And if you reach a certain age, you have to be really dedicated.
An aerialist who's really at the level where they can perform is completely obsessed usually, and will do things that most people would find incredibly uncomfortable, painful, over and over and over again until we can't do them again. Yeah, you don't have to smoke a cigarette. And oftentimes when I come off the rope and take a shot of whiskey, it's just a glass of water. I don't feel anything. I'm just in the moment of this is my next move, this is my character. This is my next move, this is my character. And I'm not thinking, is this going well, is this not going well, until I'm done.
Talking heaven, the touch is feeling blessed, but you let yourself get stuck between those hips and no soul for heaven left. Jesus saves the sinners and the Satan tempts the weak, but I know no man can keep a hold of Jesus when he hear that devil speak. That woman, she ain't no good.
Then it's that moment of stepping down onto a mat, and it's the best time ever, of course. Even though I'll probably 5 minutes later go, oh, I missed that cue, I didn't do this quite right, But those brief moments right when you step down, that's as high as it gets.
Do you feel that you're your own worst critic?
You've been talking a little bit about your 3-year-old grandson Theo and how he seems to be an aspiring little musician, artist himself. How do you see his parents, your son and daughter-in-law, you know, either making space for that or inspiring that, or if it just seems to come from somewhere inside of him?
Oh, I think it's totally coming from inside himself. And one thing that I particularly want to say is you're never too old. You can always reinvent yourself. In America, they call it retirement. In Argentina, they call it jubilado, jubilant, freedom. You can do whatever you want. So here's a shout out to not getting stuck and moving forward at any point in your life. Life is short. Celebrate. Celebrate all the different phases that we go through, all the different ages, all the different ideas, all the different concepts. And when it comes down, all that really matters is that we try to be the best we can in each of those phases.